public health perspective. And as Janice said, Washington is just getting started on a concentrated effort for AOT, although AOT has been on the books since 2008. Our partners at HCA are tasked with getting hired regional coordinators for AOT across the state. And as that's happening, we are looking to support them with education to our judges on AOT and AOT courts.
Judge D'Antonio.
Hi, I'm Mark D'Antonio. I'm the Muskogee County, Columbus, Georgia probate court judge. I was just trying to do some math. I've been with the probate court here in Columbus since 2006. I've been the elected official since 2013. And because a Superior Court judge here in Georgia wanted to know how many outpatient commitment hearings I've adjudicated, since being the elected official, I've done 1,049, or at least as of the count a couple of weeks ago. And since I've been with the court, I've done about 1,500. My background prior to going to work for the probate court is I was an attorney with Georgia Legal Services representing low-income people, particularly people with severe and persistent mental illness in non-criminal matters like public housing evictions and those kind of things. I'm extremely vested in helping the state of Georgia adopt an AOT program that it works uniformly throughout our very big state with 159 fellow judges like Judge Altman down there.
Judge Liu.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judge Liu from the 2nd Judicial District Court in Reno, Nevada. I've been with the bench since 2012. I was elected in 2014 to my current position, and I started the AOT program here in Reno, Nevada. We started meeting in 2015. I think we implemented in 2016. So, and we use a SAMHSA grant, which is how we connected with TAC. And then I stayed connected with TAC because they've just been a wonderful partner for us and very helpful in every aspect and answering a lot of questions for us. I was trying to think. So I guess really our main concern is after a SAMHSA grant, we were able to, with our statistics, become state funded. So after our 4-year grant, we were able to continue the program with state funding and pretty much solidify the state's commitment and budget for this program to continue. So that was a big highlight for us. So thank you.
Judge Hessel.
Yes, good afternoon. Judge Scott Hassel, Etowah County, Alabama. We're about 3 hours, west of Atlanta, 1 hour north of Birmingham, and about 2.5 south of Nashville. So we're kind of right there in the center. I was elected in 2018, took the bench subsequently after the election. In my prior life, 28 years as a mental health clinician, practiced in North Alabama, primarily adolescents and young adults, a variety of mental health issues. But I'm here today just to want to continue the enthusiasm. The conference in San Antonio, it was incredible. But I think on top of that, it sparked a lot of interest and enthusiasm in our team. We've been doing AOT about 1.5 years now, but subsequent to that conference in San Antonio, now we in the courthouse. So we kind of have taken the black robe effect to a new level. Compliance was an issue for us. So rather than send Mohammed to the mountain, we brought the mountain to Mohammed. So now when you come to the courthouse to see the judge, you see our community mental health officer, you're also going to see your therapist, and I have a full-time physician inside the courthouse that's able to manage meds, provide therapy. And so it seems to work better. And again, it all came from our conference where you were talking about partnerships, and we did that with no additional funding. We just asked, hey, we'll give you some office space in this old courthouse that was built in the 40s, and it's working well. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you for everything you're doing.
I just have to say, you're the first person I've ever heard that had a treating physician. Certainly, you know, testifying physicians have come to the courthouse, but kudos. Judge Jaconet?
You had it right the first time. So I'm Mike Jaconet. I'm the probate judge for Calhoun County, Michigan, which is Battle Creek area. So your Kellogg cereal is our claim to fame. And I've been the probate judge here since January of 2011. And I'm not familiar with TAC. Milt Mack, who I'm sure you may well be familiar with, he's one of my people, and he sent out an email, and I was on that list, and he said, this might be of interest to you. It is of interest to me. AOT is of interest to me because I'm on our Michigan Judicial Council through the Supreme Court, and I'm in charge of our behavioral health improvement work group. I'm not quite sure how I got that position, but I have a mental health treatment court that we established about 8 years ago. And so that's been kind of a passion of mine. We do graduations, in case you need to know, Judge Fish. And I went to Michigan, so the name Mark D'Antonio is kind of a taboo sort of name. I went to University of Georgia for law school, so I do have some Georgia familiarity, and I was born in Anniston, Alabama, which I think is right above where our last judge, Judge Hessel, is from. So I kind of have some connection with some of these different areas. The other thing I would say is I wasn't sure what this chat was about. I'm just interested in hearing what you folks have to say, and if I can offer anything, I will. I have a half-hour window to participate, so I don't have any idea how long that this chat is, but if I have to check out early, I apologize.
That former coach dropped the apostrophe and spells it with a K.
Yes, yeah. So I knew it was a different guy. You also, you look a lot better. You look less grumpy. So I didn't think it was the same guy.
Although he has a similar nose to my sister. I'll leave that alone.
Magistrate Kitzler, we know you well, so I know you're a magistrate, so please.
My name's Patty Kitzler. I'm the magistrate at Richland County Probate Court. We're located in North Central Ohio. We have had an AOT program now. We're in our 6th year, amazingly. We started at the beginning of 2018. We have a steady stream. We're a kind of a small to medium-sized county, but we have a pretty steady population of severe mentally ill people. We're doing okay. I'm always looking for pointers, and I'm always looking for things that we can tweak. I love the idea of one-stop shopping, Judge Hassel. So I hope to pick up maybe a little tidbit along those lines. We don't really have any serious problems right now. I guess timing is probably the biggest concern that I have personally. When is it time to let these people go? Believe it or not, we have a couple people we can't get rid of because they love us. And then we've got other people that can't get out fast enough, and we know they need us. So we're never happy about what length of time anybody should actually participate in our program. So we're still trying to figure that part out.
Can I just add real quickly, for those of you who were at the symposium and remember Bradley Tarr, who is the AOT graduate from Ohio who spoke, he actually is one of Patricia Kitzler's program, came from her program. So
yeah, Bradley was our poster child.
Yeah.
And now he's ours.
Yeah, well, and I just want to say, I do all the commitment hearings. And I was pretty new at it when we had his case, and we were having the hearing at the hospital, which we did back in those days. And I walk in and I'm ready to start the hearing, and his lawyer comes up to me and says, the patient won't come out. And I'm going, what do you mean the patient won't come out? It's his hearing. Well, he can't attend. And he refused. He was so sick that he literally could not even bring himself to come to his own mental hearing. That's how sick he was. So we're very proud of him.
Judge Zonbrecker?
I'm Alan Zonbrecker. I preside over Division H of the 22nd Judicial District Court in the state of Louisiana. We are north of New Orleans. We're two parishes, we call them, same as counties in other states, St. Tammany and Washington. We're about 350,000 people. I've presided over the AOT court here since its inception in November of 2020. Prior to that time, for 3 years, I presided over the behavioral health court that we have. AOT has been an eye opener. I tell people the healthiest person in our AOT court is sicker than the sickest person in behavioral health court. The behavioral health court is a co-occurring court. Of course, there's almost always an underlying chemical, drug, alcohol symptom. The biggest issue that we have, of course, we have all the issues of transportation, communication, when to let them go, when to keep them in, and then getting them to take their medication or accept the treatment is the perennial problem. But one of the issues that we're taking on head on is housing. There's just a tremendous shortage of housing. And our local executive director of NAMI, a guy named Nick Richards, who has been around mental health circles for many years. And I took a trip to North Carolina last fall to see a development of tiny homes that's being built for some of their specialty court people. And we have now very recently acquired funding, and we're going to be able to do this. We think we're going to be able to build 12 tiny homes to house not only some AOT people, some behavioral health court people, but at least a couple from our Veterans Court, which is, we're really active in the 22nd. We have every specialty court that we know of. Every single judge presides over a specialty court. So if we can get some housing assistance, and we're very fortunate, we've got a mental health hospital that closed down several years ago. The parish bought it, so we have the infrastructure to locate these pods of tiny homes, and we know what we're going to build and where we're going to build them. So if we can get housing under control, but it's been an eye-opening thing, and I think we're finally getting a grip on and doing some good in our area. Thank you.
Judge Altman?
Oh, hi. Hello, Mark. He's my fellow probate judge. I'm in Blakely, Georgia. I am the probate judge and chief magistrate. I've been in this courthouse for 22 years. I was the previous judge that was here. I was an associate magistrate and her chief clerk of the probate court. She retired in December of 15, and that's when I took office. As Mark was saying, I do several OTAs, and I'm just here to try to learn some more about different areas.
Welcome.
Thank you. And of course, I've got somebody waiting on me. I'm gonna skip out just a minute because I've got an oath to give on an adult guardianship, but I will be right back.
Well, and Judge Altman, you've just been invited to the mental health subcommittee meeting that the probate judges are having on the 24th. I hadn't had you on the list, but glad to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Leah Compton, not a judge, but from our partner at SAMHSA.
Hi, everybody. Leah Compton. I'm a public health advisor for SAMHSA. I worked in the provider world for 20 some odd years in behavioral health and criminal justice. I live in Gainesville, Florida, so I have to apologize. It's pretty warm here compared to other places, but thank you for having me. I'm just kind of crashing to learn more and to listen. So thank you.
Happy to have you. I am sorry, Judge Heather.
I'm actually magistrate in the Portage County, Ohio probate court. We have been trying to start an AOT docket here since my judge took the bench about 2 years ago now, meeting with community partners, meeting with Betsy. Magistrate Kitzler graciously had us at her court. So just trying to get some information, maybe possibly just how do we get the community partners to see the benefit of bringing this to our county. That seems to be our roadblock right now is, there's staffing issues and they just don't see, right now, I feel like they don't see the benefit. They just think it's another burden on their already stressed system.
Well, I can tell you that they are in good company, but we're here to help. So let's, Betsy, can you and I talk about that at some point? And maybe we can set up a meeting with, I can't even remember. I used to live in Portage County.
Coleman
Kevin
Health Services are
Coleman, Kevin
major.
Coleman. Yeah.
Yep.
That's how long ago I lived in Portage County. It was Kevin Coleman back then.
It's still Kevin Coleman. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. And then we have somebody from who looks to be from Cleveland on the phone. And I muted you earlier because we were getting a lot of feedback. So you're going to have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, this is Larry Heller. I'm not a judge. I hope it's okay for me to listen in. Thank you.
Who are you? What do you do?
Sorry. My name's Larry Heller. I'm the outreach coordinator for Northern Ohio Recovery Association, NORA, and I also serve on quite a few boards and committees throughout the community. And Dr. Muniz was kind enough to send me the link to listen into this.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we heard a number of things that people have concerns about. I'm looking for Brooke. Do you want to?
I'm right here.
It's a big group, so had to look.
It is.
What did you note that?
Yeah. So what I noted, first, Magistrate Doggett mentioned transportation and partnering with law enforcement. And transportation may have been mentioned a second time. So that's one thing. And also, program, this is kind of just a personal thought, but Judge Liu, I was impressed to hear that you were able to get your program state funded after the SAMHSA grant ran out. So if anyone's interested, it may be nice to talk about program sustainability and how you were able to do that, because I know that could be relevant to some folks, is getting that funding. And then also, let's see, housing being one of the biggest issues, and how to address that. And then just getting buy-in from community partners. Everyone's dealing with staffing and budgeting issues. How can you get the community to be engaged and involved despite those problems?
Thank you. And we'll get to those, but I forgot we invited two judges to talk about their experience, and we wanted to have an experienced judge and a rather new judge. So we asked Judge Fish to say a few words as our new AOT judge.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So this all started for me last fall, and some folks from our local mental health team at Porter Stark had approached me. I share the mental health cases with another judge here in Porter County. We divide those fairly evenly. Before I got here, my predecessor had handled all the mental health cases for Porter County. But Porter Stark was interested in getting us involved in the AOT program. And they sat me down probably over some tacos, and we talked a little bit about how AOT is supposed to work. And I'm a sucker for tacos, but also for a good idea. And from my perspective, this idea of helping people extend the time between their involvements in hospitals, between the time with their involvement with law enforcement, just seemed to make a whole lot of sense. And if we could save some money for the county along the way, or save some money for Porter Stark along the way, that also was very logical to me. They turned me on to Judge Stormer, who some of you Ohioans probably are familiar with. Yep. And she and I had a conversation with my local guy, Todd Van Buskirk, who some of you may know. And she didn't have to sell me too hard on it, but she sure did make it seem like it was easy to do. I attended the conference at San Antonio. That was wonderful. And it gave me a great feeling that there was this movement towards this sensible programming that would help people without the kind of strict involvement of the court. And it gave me some hope for what we could do with a program like that here in Porter County. So when we got back, we earnestly started to plan for when we would open up our own AOT program. And we just picked a date of January 30th of this year. And then we did some build in between those times to be able to make sure we were ready to actually go. One of those things was for me to sit in on Judge Wannell's court. Is that Missouri?
It's
Kansas.
Just outside of Kansas City, Olathe, Kansas.
Yes. He let me sit in on one of his sessions, and that was very enlightening to see how he handled business there. And then I've been trying to get with Judge Heiser, who some of you may know from Marion County, Ohio. I haven't been able to get on his calendar, but we're still working on me trying to observe what he's doing. And then it was me being lucky to have Porter Stark, because Porter Stark here in Porter County is carrying all the water for me and doing all the heavy lifting. I haven't had to add a single penny to my own budget. Whatever they're doing on their side, they've added some personnel to help manage case management. They've added not personnel, but added a job to a gentleman who was a case manager before to do the coordinating efforts for the AOT court. And then I just take some time out of Hyde, and I spend time every third Monday or so with folks who are involved in mental health cases. I did have a chat with our county commissioner, the one that I know the best, and told him what I was about to do. I didn't really ask for permission, but told him exactly what was going to go on. And I had some conversations with county councilmen who I am familiar with and who are keen on the mental health issue in the county and how we need to do something towards improving it. I also have kind of a vision of allowing or positioning our AOT court as kind of an intercept court for criminality, for criminal courts. And I've worked a little bit so far with our prosecutor. He's the day-to-day prosecutor in my court anyway. So I see him 2 or 3 times a week regardless. And I'm able to leverage that relationship a little bit. So I think that once we have, and I'll tell you, in Porter County, we are working on crisis intervention. They're trying to now fill the gaps and get crisis intervention going here in Porter County. It's a little bit of a long haul sort of project, but I see our AOT program being nested in that program as a way to be to intervene for people who should never come in contact with law enforcement. And I have a bunch of war stories, but I don't want to get into those right now of people who I have had sit in the jail here in Porter County who shouldn't ever have. sat in jail and whose mental health issue decomposed as a result of them sitting in jail. Maybe I need to tell those stories to some people I need to get on board, but you guys aren't probably that audience. So that's been our walk. I think I've done 3-4 sessions so far. I feel fairly comfortable with what we're doing. We meet with people in my jury room. I have the case manager come with them. We have a representative from Porter Stark who takes notes. They do feed me some progress reports in advance of that. We do take time before the hearing to talk about cases, especially the ones that might be more difficult. And then I meet with people for 15 to a half an hour to talk about their situation, set them up for what I think is a smart amount of time after that. And I'm totally unqualified to make that determination, but nobody's told me I've gotten it wrong yet on when we should have somebody come back in. And that's what we've been doing. I've been at it, like I say, less than 3 months. I have no metrics. I have no proof. I have no measure of progress other than it feels like we're doing the right thing. So.
Thank you. Judge Lou.
Hi there. Well, no one gave me tacos. Had they, I probably would have done this sooner. But but so the AOT program in Nevada, actually the SAMHSA grant was done by our state hospital in our county. And then they needed a judge, and I do the civil commitment docket here since 2015. And so the state hospital actually approached me because they needed a judge to get the SAMHSA grant. And I was 100% on board because I'd been a defender, represented these individuals criminally and mental health courts. So I knew the power of specialty courts and the life changes that could be made. So I was very excited to start the program in Washoe County in Clark County, which is Las Vegas. They were state funded when the legislation was initiated, but in Washoe County, we were not, which is why we went for we had to get the SAMHSA grant. And essentially we were able to get the 4-year grant. And it really kickstarted us off with being able to do site visits, having the state hospital involved, having TAC involved. And a key point I would say is to do your statistics and connect with your IT department to get that set up before you start, because those statistics is basically what got us to our state funding. Because we were able to show our numbers, we were able to show the data, we were able to show the cost savings, because when we compared a year of our participants to the year in AOT versus the year before, and we found that statistically we had a 63% or 61% decrease in hospitalizations. So these were the revolving hospital door, and then we saw a 73% decrease in incarceration days. And then their hospital stays, because this is really about harm reduction. They still may go in the hospital, but for shorter days, right? So where they maybe were in the hospital for 3 weeks, they're maybe in the hospital for 5 days. So it makes a significant cost savings in hospital bed days, incarceration days. So probably in that 1 year, when we added up the cost, I think our jail savings was about $450,000. And then our hospital savings were, when we added that in, was about, we got to over $1 million in savings when you counted up those days. So the annual budget for our AOT that we were provided in comparison is $980,000. So when you look at the cost savings, it was at least $500,000 for just that 1 year. So that was significant in assisting us in getting state approved and for that budget money. To kind of touch on the housing piece, housing is a big issue in Reno, Nevada. Our rents here, I had a people I know renting, 600 square feet and needing to pay like $1,500 a month. It's pretty insane. So it's very scarce recently, and our group homes have decreased because of new licensing requirements. So we've had fewer providers, but we are recently in talks with Volunteers of America that runs a shelter services here in our county. And we're looking at partnering with them as they are potentially purchasing an empty motel. And so we're really looking at partnering them with getting housing for our AOT participants with some housing funding we have through our budget through the state. So my point is, you may find partnerships in your housing options and for other nonprofit organizations. So that's an exciting time for us right now. And in terms of what Judge Fish was mentioning about Intercept, our county is creating a competency court, and actually we are looking at diverting misdemeanors and competency that are found, needing competency evaluations to AOT. So we're starting a new funnel this year, which is quite exciting for us. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Judge Leafman's work in Florida, but he has this huge program where they're even diverting up to felony levels because the cost of having a competency evaluation far outweighs the cost of getting the mental health treatment. So in his court, they're even diverting misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, and felonies. And I think our pie in the sky is to do that as well here in Washoe County. So we just started having those meetings about a month ago. So this is how we're really utilizing AOT in many other ways, and not just getting them out of the hospital, but also getting them taking a step further of ending that revolving door through the jail as well. So we're doing some really exciting things with AOT, and I really want to encourage everyone here to keep going. Even when the days are long and you see someone that's, back in the hospital or back in the jail, it's really worth it, because really any time frame of treatment is beneficial to a participant. So, we try to keep them in for at least a year before they just really want to get out. But like I think Magistrate Kitzler mentioned, we have people in our program for 2 to 3 years now. And they love it and they thrive in the program. We know the second they leave the program, they're not going to do as well. So we keep them in, and that's fine. They're happy, we're happy. Everybody's happy with that situation. So it can really be a fluid program for the needs of your participants. But that's where we've been at this point, and we're going to keep going. So thank you.
Thanks, Judge Lou. That I really like the comment from Judge Jacquinette that this is, it truly is, AOT it's not the answer to the competency crisis, but it is an answer. So I'm glad to hear that a number of you are using AOT in that regard.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like that's something that we've done in Michigan, but that's one of the things that we're looking at with the Judicial Council that I'm involved with, is looking at other states that have begun that work, and everything we've looked at so far is really promising as that as an alternative, because like Judge was saying, it's if that isn't addressed, it is a backlog that is drowning the courts, and it's not necessary, especially with the misdemeanor offenders. If there are some alternatives. Now the issue, and I'd be interested in hearing this is the thing we haven't worked through, and I don't want to divert too much into competency, but the accountability question that goes hand in hand with, sometimes the question is AOT enough And are we diverting otherwise competent people into an AOT process when really there ought to be some accountability for them as well that's lost? So that's one of the things we're kind of struggling through.
So just a quick question about because I'm interested in the competency side too. We've just started conversations with our district attorney and others about either using AOT as forensic restoration, but the other folks that I think there will be some folks are people that have been adjudicated not competent to stand trial, not restorables. So I was curious, Judge Liu, if which one or both of those are y'all approaching? I'm looking at different ways of funneling people into AOT that will really benefit from it, and that is definitely a population I'm concerned about.
So our AOT is already, so we're really looking at both. I do have people referred from, so our Lakes Crossing is our competency hospital, and they'll file petitions when they're found incompetent for civil commitment. And then out of the civil commitment petition, I'll often refer people, or people will refer to AOT as a step down. So we've already been getting people who have been found incompetent into AOT. So the newest aspect is, and you know, we're still in the discussions with the DA and the public defenders and everyone with formulating it, but with the competency court, we're going to have an evaluator evaluate all, do kind of an initial triage of the defendants that basically sitting in the jail for months, waiting to get to the competency hospital, right? And so he's gonna triage them, figure out who are the misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, felonies, see what they are, if they have a history of a diagnosis. And then if they're misdemeanors for sure, he would definitely recommend a diversion to AOT, and then basically, you know, either do a type of deferred dismiss. We haven't worked out those that type of situation yet. Defer, dismiss, or just dismiss, and they go into AOT. So those are what we're looking at. And we discussed that restoration using AOT to do so. But to a certain degree, it really conflicts with the principle of AOT, which is really giving them treatment and keeping them out of incarceration versus getting them well enough to maybe be incarcerated. Right?
Yeah, I get that completely. That is sort of, I will say about we have really very few state hospital civil beds for people that are very, very sick. And by doing anything that can help clear some forensic beds, then we're actually, that's sort of the other value I see in it. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. I think Magistrate Doggett one.
Yeah, this is kind of weird for our court because we're trying to get our AOT program going, but we have in Ohio, we have SB2, which is basically one of these bills that was passed where you have the ability to kind of move people from criminal over to the civil track. And it was sort of weird because we approached our prosecutors for the city here, and they were absolutely on board once they realized, like, now they're thinking of, in their minds, oh, we could also get competency, but it was really just the fact that, like, we've seen these people over and over and over. And if you've got something that could push them so that maybe we can get them out of the system, I was surprised how quickly they got on board because they were talking to the municipal court judges, and it's actually our prosecutors who are getting the judges on board, which has been really exciting for us, except they're ready. They already have like 5 candidates and we're not quite ready for them with the AOT program yet. So I was actually just that conversation when they finally understood what AOT does, they got it because they're like, if we can keep them from constantly coming through, because they're like, we know they're not going to get they're not going to be found competent. We're just wasting our time, but we have to go through the motions.
Right. I think you would definitely have an easier time with, for sure, misdemeanors. You know, our ultimate goal is to, you know, try to reach higher. Obviously, certain crimes may not allow for that, but that's definitely a discussion we want to continue to pursue. But that's great to hear that you had some really positive outcomes with that meeting.
And to to be clear, we really don't promote, well, let me start over. So AOT, unlike mental health court, you know, we really don't have the teeth. You know, there's no, jail is not at all consequence. So AOT is really focused on engaging the person in their treatment by focusing on their goals and also by helping them to see the benefits of treatment. So like Judge Liu, it would just horrify me for someone to be successful in treatment, or especially if I were the case manager, to think I was preparing them to go to jail. I mean, that would be awful. I mean, that would be an impossible task. So we really do recommend that charges get dropped.
And we actually, when they do it, we have them dismiss the case before they send it to us. That was part of our kind of agreement on that one, because we're, as I said, this is the, you know, the city prosecutors we've got. So it's all minor misdemeanors right now. We'll work our way up to trying to get the county prosecutors.
I know in Summit County, Ohio, they test piloted this and found that they were getting people who were not appropriate for AOT. So it's very important that you clarify what the criteria is for entering into the program and that everybody understands what that criteria is.
And just so it's not confusing, everybody, I put some info in the chat, but our partners at SMI Advisor, which is like a mental health open forum, are presenting a webinar on AOT as an alternative to competency restoration and the sequential intercept model by Dr. Mark Munitz from Neomed, who is amazing, next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's free to join, and if you register and can't attend, you should be able to access the webinar afterwards. You just would need to register, and you do have to. So typically with our webinars, you don't have to create any sort of account, but since this is through SMI Advisor, you do have to have an account, but it's free. So for anyone interested in kind of diving a little deeper in that, we would recommend for sure.
I also put a link to a one-pager that looks at AOT as an alternative to competency restoration. If you need something, you know, to educate some of your system partners about this issue, it might be a good place to start.
So I had a question about the transportation question. I think that was from magistrate docket, right?
Yes.
So when you
Yes.
talked about transportation with the sheriff, I wasn't quite sure what you meant.
So one of our big issues here is that we have 28 different law enforcement groups. And so we're trying to work with the sheriff, but they're like, we're only over certain territories. So there's a big concern here in how we kind of get everyone to come to the table on if we need somebody. Our big one is getting them to the court for some of their meetings and things like that, as well as some of them need transportation help getting to their appointments. We have 2 outpatient providers here. So part of it is if they don't live close by, we don't have a great bus system. There are concerns on that piece of it. And it's really been also law enforcement just kind of buying into the system of take them to the hospital, not to the jail as well, because that's one of the things is we actually, the jail here is very on board because they're like, we see the same people over and over. We can't really treat them here. They need mental health treatment instead. But they're just concerned with costs and then, you know, do the people have the training to deal with the individuals, all of that. So it's been very difficult. Plus, as I said, we have so many different groups that we have to deal with. So if they're in Kettering, we might be okay because they've got CIT training, but if they're over in Huber Heights, we don't know. I mean, it's that sort of situation for us.
So it's a pretty broad transportation issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to figure out how to get, because we don't we don't have we have a good connection with the sheriff's office here, but we don't have the connections with all the different law enforcement agencies yet to get them to the table. We've talked to the hospitals, our Adams board's gotten the providers, it sounds like pretty much on board, but we're just concerned if somebody can't get where they need to go, that's the piece of it. And right now, you know, eventually we're trying to build up to other options, but the law enforcement's really our kind of go-to for transportation.
So to get to appointments, your private providers don't provide transportation? Okay.
No.
Because I know in our AOT team, we have
Mhm.
psychiatric caseworkers, and they will they'll pick people up for groups. They'll take people to appointments. Actually, our hearings, pre-pandemic, we were holding them actually at the AOT office in the hospital. So, you know, we could say, okay, I'm gonna have you walk to the med clinic right now with your psychiatric caseworker after your hearing and go, you know, let's get some things checked. So that's where, you know, so we do have that as a part of the job duty for of course, they're all state workers, so they're covered liability wise. It's, you know, when we had contracted people, it was a liability issue to transport. So I don't know if that's you know, that can lead to that part of the discussion. You know, fortunately, I only have 3 law enforcement agencies in town, and they all met with me and were willing to meet with me. So we were able to have really good conversations, and we have our mobile crisis units, and they're always keeping an eye out when we are missing someone for a few hours. So we have but you know, we have a smaller law enforcement number, so it's just been easier for us to have those conversations and cooperation. But I wanted to mention our PCWs because they do provide the transportation.
And that sounds like a possible alternative, because that's our big thing is we have so many jurisdictions we're dealing with.
I will also say that I don't know of any AOT program that uses law enforcement to get to appointments or to get to court. Typically, the role of law enforcement in this program is to execute pickup orders. And I mean, I think what you're seeing is how having some extra funds is helpful to a program, because unfortunately, transportation is not Medicaid billable. And so your case managers are required to perform certain levels of billable service. So they have to focus on that and can't do the transportation. Although I will say, as a case manager, I did a heck of a lot of transporting back and forth to appointments.
That's what our people rely on, the case managers.
Our providers generally provide transportation too when needed. Although, again, maybe I'm probably doing a bunch of things wrong. We miss a couple of hearings. I may do a pickup order for assistance to get somebody to come to court if I really think it's important for that individual to come to court.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all can tell me if my sheriff is willing to do pretty much whatever I put in an order, including maybe even not take them for to their medical appointment and return them back home. But that's not the standard. That's the exception to the rule. But I will ask for it from time to time.
We were just being told we don't have a transport, and that'll maybe a conversation with some of our providers then.
And I do believe there's provisions in managed care agreements that they have to provide some transportation as well, at least to appointments, perhaps not to court, but one other just thought in terms of getting buy-in from law enforcement as well is if they feel like they're a partner to the program and that they can make referrals when there's somebody in the community that's struggling and they can make a referral and you all take that seriously. I think you'll get some buy-in, and I would suggest working through their CIT coordinators at each of those departments.
Right. I mean, I think half of our referrals come from our mobile crisis unit. So it's very mutual, our relationships.
And I think this speaks to the importance of the collaboration during the initial stages of implementation before you even have your first hearing. It's so important to sit down with all of the stakeholders to work these kinds of things out.
Yep.
And we've seen that. Well, I can say that those programs that seem to be running the smoothest, the most smoothly anyway, have strong collaboration outside of the actual courtroom, or, you know, they've met before and have worked this all out before they get started.
I've often said one of our most important roles as a court is to make sure the mental health people are all doing their jobs. And that's what sometimes you got to lean in a little bit. And when you have a breakdown, and I look at the mental health person that accompanies them to court, and I say, all right, this is broke. How do we fix it? And how do we keep this from happening next week? And pretty much it works. It works. But I always feel like we're not just supervising the participant, we're also supervising the care providers to some extent. I don't like the word supervise, but for lack of a better term, that is kind of what we do.
You're holding everyone accountable.
Yes. And everybody has a stake in this.
And
they all got to do their part.
Because the provider is under a court order as well, because you've ordered them to a certain provider, or I assume that you would order them to the board.
We order them to the board, yeah.
So the board should be holding the providers accountable, and the board could help you problem solve the transportation issue.
Okay, we'll see if we can get them on that one.
Well, I think about levy funds. I mean, this program is going to save them money in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
It may take a little investment up front, but it's going to save them money.
Okay.
And we're happy to, I know Betsy's been a good partner, but we're happy to come to a meeting and talk about all these other wonderful programs that do this. No, I'm kidding. We wouldn't shame them, but we are happy to consult.
Yeah, because that was kind of one of those barriers when we were first talking. They're like, how are we going to get transport for all these individuals when we were talking to the board about getting AOT? So.
And the same thing with Magistrate Heather, that we can definitely spend some time with the board and the provider if they're the ones holding things up.
Our board is on, I think they're on board. It's just a matter of Coleman being able to provide the caseworkers to get involved. And since that's our sole provider here in town, our board kind of placates to them a little bit as well.
Yeah, there is a weird power dynamic there because the board doesn't have anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, the board cannot provide the service and they're dependent on this provider.
Yeah. But I will say we always I mean, these are people that they are required to serve anyway. So the fact that they don't have staff, these are the priority people. Right. They're the ones in and out of your jail, in and out of your hospital. So
we've had a little better luck. Brittany was mentioning SB2 earlier. Our judges and prosecutors are jumping on in law enforcement. And so they're seeing it as a viable alternative to that revolving door, high expense process. But I'd like to try to hopefully even get them before they end up in the criminal court. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
I thought I would just jump in real quick on the transportation. So not in my current role, because I'm in a state role now, but in my previous role, I had flexible funds for behavioral health issues at a county level. And we built a transportation program where we basically paid a staff member to do nothing but transport participants to therapeutic courts. And it went really well. We also, as we started working through that program and started seeing transportation needs for recovery supports, so recovery support groups of any kind, things that happened after our buses stopped running, but we're super supportive for recovery of any kind in the community. It was super helpful, especially during COVID, because it was a one-on-one driver. And so for those who had their mental illness made it so that they had some paranoia, they didn't have to use public transportation. They didn't miss their court dates, reducing the, amount of sanctions that they would end up, that sort of thing. And it really wasn't that expensive to keep running. We honestly ran it out of the behavioral health agency that we contracted with and gave them enough money for a full-time employee to do nothing but transportation to court and recovery support services. But I had flexible spending to do that, and flexible spending is not always there.
Transportation is also a really good role for peer support. If your program has peer support workers,
and whether it's like something we should be doing or not, case managers and peer support workers are often case managing and offering peer supports while they are driving. So although the transportation itself is not Medicaid billable, the time spent with the participant is.
And sometimes they schedule other appointments on the days that they're supposed to come to see us in the court. And so they get a little more bang for their buck because they're also going to see their therapist, or, they're going to an interview for a job, or they're going to stop and look at an apartment on the way back to the mental health center. So, we see a lot of combination of services on the days that they're supposed to come in and see us, and that works out great.
also if you can pair it with something good, like looking for an apartment.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe the taco intervention. How about that?
Right. I was going to mention, like, I had a lady earlier this week, and she also had received her stipend money, and they were going shopping after the AOT meeting.
Yeah.
So they built in combined services like that. I know our case managers are engaged. I think if I asked for money from the council, that would be like a pot of money we could use to buy Ubers or to pay for the vehicle and driver, like what you were talking about, they would do that. But I'm in a fairly small county. I mean, we're about 175,000 people in the whole county. But I don't think that wouldn't be a tough sell to my county council.
You don't know until you ask.
We have a court foundation for special requests. Like I just got out of AOT court, and one of our participants had a grave need for a bicycle. He was close enough, he could actually ride. So case manager shows up with a brand new bicycle and puts it on his porch, and he was just beside himself with joy that one, that somebody cared enough to do that. But so look for those foundations and become friends with them, because that's what we did with our court foundation. And we occasionally use them for down payments for apartment, or deposits for apartments, just to get somebody into, and then let the benefits take over after that. But court foundations and CIT.
NAMI is another good resource for not a ton of funds, but incentives.
Okay. Now I'm back. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Bye now.
I want to be respectful of your time. This has been a great conversation and really appreciate all the participation. But please, if you need to leave, don't hesitate. And just keep in mind that this is a conversation we have every 4 months. And so we'd love to see you 4 months from now as well. It's been a while since we had the last one actually at the symposium. So we had as many judges, but not this geographic distribution.
But certainly don't wait to reach out to us if you run into something you think we can be helpful with. Never hesitate to reach out to the three of us with those questions or concerns.
I had a quick question of Judge Liu. Judge Liu, you spouted some really helpful numbers off. I was wondering if you guys had a report or an evaluation you could share.
Sorry, thank you. So we have some data. I can share some data with you. Is that what you're looking for?
Oh, I was just wondering if that data had been collected into a report that was easily accessible that I could just.
I don't know if it's a public report, but I did do PowerPoint presentations, so I can pull those slides for you. Is that something?
I would love that. I think it would be really helpful. It's we have an opposite problem here in Washington where our behavioral health is really on board because that's where the legislation came down from, and we're trying to educate our judges. And so this is a mandate, and oftentimes people don't want to be forced to do something, but if I have the information to share with them about how this is beneficial to communities and hospitals and jails, I think that would be really helpful.
Yes, I can definitely get you that data. I had to do a presentation to our county commission, and we just had a mental health summit in a statewide one in January, and we did an AOT presentation. So I'll see what I have and see what's useful to you, and then I'll try to see if anything's recorded. I know I did a judge's training just for civil commitments. So let me see what I have and I'll get it to you. I don't know if Amy or Betsy can give me your contact information.
I just dropped my email in the chat. I don't mean to create more work, so don't go way far out of your way, but I think it'd be super helpful to educate our judges.
Okay, I am happy to help. So
also, keep in mind that this is a very helpful group and they've relied on each other. As you heard Judge Fish say, he's observed a couple of courts. I know we've had people observe Judge Liu's court. So,
Magistrate Kitzler.
Oh yeah,
in there in a couple of weeks.
Yes. So we're happy to arrange those. We're also happy to arrange phone conversations. A number of the AOT judges have said, just let us know, we'll make a phone call. We're happy to do it. So just let us know. Also, I don't know, are they probate judges in Washington or no? You're on mute. What?
I had a cat on my desk muting and unmuting me. So for the AOT level, Washington is a decentralized court system, so each county has kind of its own way of running. King and Pierce County both have what they call AOT courts. Pierce is really the only one running an AOT court. And so our judges are all a little bit different as well, depending on the side of the county and what's happening in that county.
The reason I ask is because we are doing a 3-hour training at the Probate Judges College in Tucson. If any of them would be attending.
If you want to share that information with me, I can reach out to our Judges Association coordinators and see if any of the judges are attending and just kind of ask them to sit in on that breakout.
It's not a breakout.
Oh,
so if they're there,
they're gonna get it.
That's right.
Okay. It would be helpful for me though to even, if you want to share it with me, if I reach out to them and see if any of those judges are attending, so I could follow up with them afterwards.
Sure will. Sure.
And then connect them with our local coordinators.
Sure will. Last words for the good of the order.
Thank you all. I'm gonna probably be bugging some of you. I do a lot of my hearings by Zoom or hybrid, and there's a list of 19 state probate judges that seem to want to watch my hearings and come in and out. It's always subject to the attorney I appoint for the well, I'm gonna say respondent, for the individual to decide whether or not they don't want the gallery, but most of the time folks have no problems with the gallery watching, so to speak. So plus I really would love to know more about what I'm doing wrong, since I've been making it up for over a decade.
I also wanted to say before we sign off, I know Amy said, we meet every 4 months. I feel like if people want to connect with each other earlier than that timeline, I know that we lost a couple folks, so I don't think we can ask for a blanket permission to share contact information. But I will email you all after this a link to the recording. And if you have a particular judge that you want to connect with, just let me know and we could do an e-introduction or something like that.
Well, again, it was great seeing you all, and thank you for taking time out of your busy days to share your experiences with each other.
Thank you for organizing it.
Yep, we'll see you in 4 months, if not before.
Wonderful meeting everyone. Keep up the great work.
Bye.